Hi guys, Irina here and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. In today's video, let's talk about this phone, the iPhone XR. It's been about 3 years since it was released. Technology moves at an incredibly fast pace these days, and I'm curious to see how the iPhone XR feels now in 2021. So let's talk about it in this video and see if the iPhone XR is still a good deal today. And just a few words about the design of this phone. This particular unit is in blue. Here we have a glass back and aluminum frame. This phone was bought when it was just released, and one of my family members has been using it this whole time before she switched to the iPhone 11. So this particular unit is not new and it had years of real-world usage, and as you can see, the color on the frame of this iPhone partially came off, even though this phone had a case on it all the time. So if you're not getting a new unit, just keep it in mind that something like that could be expected. The thing that stands out to me right away is the location of the Apple logo. As you know, since the iPhone 11 lineup, Apple started putting the logo in the middle of their phones, and also for the past 2 years we've had a cleaner design without the word iPhone written at the bottom. But this phone still has it, and of course this is not a good or a bad thing. These are just some of my observations. When it comes to overall dimensions and weight, the iPhone XR is identical to the iPhone 11, however, it's noticeably heavier and bulkier than the iPhone 12. Let's talk about the display of this iPhone. We have a 6.1-inch LCD display, just like on the iPhone 11, and I'm gonna compare the iPhone XR to the next two models that came after it, the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12, so you could better understand what the display on the iPhone XR is like. And let's start with the iPhone 12. The main difference between these two displays is that we have an LCD display on the iPhone XR and an OLED display on the iPhone 12. And what does it mean for you as a user? It means you have a significantly brighter display on the iPhone 12, and when it comes to colors, they will look more vivid and contrasty on the OLED panel of the iPhone 12. And also, let's not forget about the difference in pixel density, which means the display on the iPhone 12 will look sharper, which is quite noticeable, especially if you put these two side by side. And now let's take a look at the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11, and here I swear I feel like I'm holding the exact same phones in different colors. And speaking of the displays of these phones, these look absolutely identical to me in terms of brightness, colors, and sharpness. So if you're choosing between the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11, just keep in mind that the displays are absolutely the same on these models. I would say in general the main difference between these two phones is this ultra-wide camera and some camera features. And speaking of which, let's talk about the camera of the iPhone XR. We have a single 12-megapixel camera with an aperture of 1.8 on this phone, so there is no telephoto camera or the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone XR. So the zoomed photos taken on the iPhone XR won't be that crisp when compared to the photos taken on the phone with the telephoto camera. Just like in this example where the 12 Pro Max used its telephoto camera to take this photo, while the iPhone XR had to rely on the digital zoom of its main camera. However, if you're not gonna go too far with the zoom, for example, my go-to zoom is just 2x zoom, which I use quite often, and as you can see, the iPhone XR does a pretty good job with the digital zoom on its main camera. And speaking of the lack of the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone XR, here I think you should ask yourself if you really need to take ultra-wide photos, since I think the majority of the photos I take on my phone are still taken on the main camera. When it comes to random daylight photos, the iPhone XR produces pretty amazing shots, even when compared to the latest iPhone models. I already have a very comprehensive camera comparison video on my channel featuring the iPhone XR, the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12. Check it out to see for yourself how you will like the camera performance on this phone. If I open the camera app on the iPhone XR, you will see that we have here absolutely the same modes as on the latest iPhone 12, including the portrait mode, slow-mo, and time-lapse. You can shoot 4K videos at up to 60 frames per second on the iPhone XR. However, the thing that is missing on this phone is the night mode, and this is the example from my camera comparison, and as you can see, the photos in low light from the iPhone XR still look pretty good, even without the night mode. However, without the night mode, you wouldn't be able to get such crisp and detailed night photos as you would get with the phone that has the night mode. Speaking of the front camera, we have a 7 megapixel camera with an aperture of 2.2 on the iPhone XR. You can get pretty good selfies with this phone. I've never had any complaints here. The only thing is that you could get crisper looking selfies with the 12 megapixel front camera on newer models such as the iPhone 11 or the iPhone 12, but once again, you still get pretty good selfies with the iPhone XR. Speaking of some limitations, you cannot shoot 4K videos on the front camera of the iPhone XR. You will be limited to 1080p resolution. And also, speaking of some fun features, you won't be able to make selfies on the iPhone XR, which are slow motion selfie videos. And I personally don't care about selfies, but just keep it in mind so that you wouldn't be disappointed in case you wanted to have this feature on your phone. Now let's talk about the battery of this phone. As I previously told you guys, this is not a new unit, so let's check the current battery capacity of this phone, and it's 94%, which is actually not bad after almost 3 years of use. I remember I had 97% battery capacity on my 11 Pro Max after just 4 months of use, and it's 100% on my 12 Pro Max after 7 months. However, as you probably already know, the battery depletion is normal and to be expected over time and will depend on many different factors. Now let's talk about battery life, and I'll be honest with you guys, switching from my 12 Pro Max to the iPhone XR for a while, I can definitely feel this difference in battery life, since I don't even have to charge my 12 Pro Max every day, whereas with the iPhone XR, you'll most likely have to charge it every single day. However, the iPhone XR will be able to last you through the day if you're not a heavy user. Even this unit, which doesn't have a 100% capacity, can easily last me through the day, and I consider myself as an average user. I don't spend too much time with my phone, and I think my go-to apps are Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and the camera app. Speaking of charging, the iPhone XR is fast charge capable, so you could charge this phone with a 20-watt charger and higher. Also, this phone supports wireless charging, and even though on Apple's website we have a blank in the MagSafe compatibility section, the MagSafe charger works just fine with the iPhone XR. The only difference is that the MagSafe charger will strongly latch to, say, the iPhone 12, which is compatible with the MagSafe charger, and it has a magnet coil inside of it, whereas in the case of the iPhone XR, you just put your phone on the MagSafe charger like on any other wireless charger. But keep in mind that the iPhone XR is not compatible with the MagSafe accessories such as wallets. When it comes to biometrics and security features, we have the Face ID on this phone, and I don't have any complaints here. It works just fine 10 times out of 10. Another thing I want to talk about is the speakers on this phone. We have stereo speakers here, the in-display speaker at the top and another one at the bottom on the right side here. As it often happens, this is not a speaker on the left, and it's important to note that the speakers on the iPhone XR are pretty much the same as on the iPhone 11 as well as the iPhone 12 in terms of sound quality and volume. Speaking of the overall performance of the iPhone XR, we have the 2018 A12 chip on this phone, and I can definitely feel the difference in speed when compared to the iPhone 12. Of course, the iPhone XR is not as fast and zippy as the latest iPhone 12. However, I don't think you will actually feel this difference unless you decide to downgrade from the newer iPhone model to the iPhone XR, which wouldn't make any sense to begin with. So obviously the iPhone XR is not the fastest iPhone on the market today. All the commands and swipes feel a little bit slower than on the newest iPhone models, but I think this phone is still pretty good for 2021. However, if you do a lot of gaming on your phone, and here I'm not talking about Candy Crush, but some of the more demanding games such as Asphalt 9, then I should warn you that I did experience some occasional freezes and lags during the game on this phone, and it's not that terrible, but keep it in mind if it's important for you. So, if you ask me, I think this phone is still pretty good for 2021, especially if you have a limited budget and you don't really care about the ultra-wide camera and some extra camera features. Then the iPhone XR would be a good deal for you. On the other hand, the difference in price between the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 is just $100. So, if you're buying this phone and plan to keep it for at least 2 to 3 years, then it probably makes sense to invest in a newer hardware of the iPhone 11. Because, as I told you at the beginning of this video, the technology moves at an incredibly fast pace and the phones get slow and obsolete pretty quickly. And finally, let's not forget that newer phones would give you more years of timely software updates from Apple. So these are my thoughts on the iPhone XR today. Let me know what you guys think. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.